So in what will be seen as a great irony, undoubtedly, I will have some sound in the background of this video, which I do apologize for. I couldn't get a different venue to record this video in today, but I wanted to talk about this because I think this is something that a lot of people have noticed, and it's specifically been cropping up in my mind a lot today because I've been perusing some YouTube audiobooks. So this is something that I'm pretty sure almost anyone who's listened to audiobooks with any regularity has experienced at some point. Maybe you're listening to an audiobook and you notice this right in the beginning, or maybe you've had an unfortunate experience where you've made your way partially through an audiobook only to discover that there is some distracting music in it or even sound effects. And I want to say, for myself, as a person who is both an avid listener and an author, I am not here to criticize anyone for this, but rather I want to engage in this topic in a conversational way. I really want to hear from people in the comments because this is something that I think is interesting as far as smaller audiobook creators. I understand why this happens. I think that when you're writing, one of the greatest sources of enjoyment is knowing that you've conveyed the picture or the feeling or the ideas, the concepts that you've wanted to the entire time that you were writing that story. You've painstakingly put those words on the page. I get that, especially if you're writing spooky stuff, if you're writing scary stories. Ideas like horror and feelings like fear and those sorts of things, and things being creepy. And if you can aid that experience in any way, I understand why you'd want to do that. And it's intuitive to think that, right? We watch films, and sound and score help to illustrate and add more oomph to some of the ideas being put forward in the script. When you're listening to music by itself, it's immersive. You're listening to a beautiful symphony. It can make you feel sad. It can make you recall romance. Those things are very true. And I understand why it would be kind of intuitive to think, well, hold on, I'm creating this audiobook. I've already got this great actor who's going to be reading the words on my page and sort of acting them out. So maybe some sound effects or some music would contribute to a more immersive experience. I want to talk about why I don't think that's the case and why actually having nothing of that sort is actually more immersive. The reason is, in my opinion, that reading audiobooks is a participatory process of creating the story. When someone's reading your book or your short story, there are as many ways to experience that as there are readers. Think about the most descriptive, specific passages. You're trying to convey a scene of a beautiful sunrise, let's say, on a beach. Golden rays from the heavens descended and gleamed off of the glassy waves. Those kinds of things. Well, every person who reads that's going to be different. And what that person paints in their mind to convey beauty is going to vary depending on that person's life experiences, their preferences, and their ideals of what beauty is. So maybe someone will recall a beach they saw when they were a child, when they met one of their best friends. Maybe someone's father was stationed in the military, and it was a time of a lot of turbulence in their life, but they would always go to this one beach, and it really gave them a sense of joy and relief. So think about things like that. Even if they're not picturing those exact things, their life experiences are going to recall things like that, even if they're using elements from those scenes in their mind to paint a new picture using the words you've put in that book. Also, sounds. Let's say you're writing a story about World War II, sort of historical fiction, and you say there was a crash of pistols off in the distance, and you put the word crack in there. The way that that person hears that sound is going to depend largely on what they think that would sound like in that scenario, in the same way that they would recall something for picturing something. Maybe when they were a child, they heard a firework go off and it scared them, and the page is describing that this sound caused fear, so they think of that sound. And the same goes for mood. He was immersed in a sweet swell of romance, that kind of thing. How each person experiences romance is going to be different, so they are going to superimpose that onto the story. And even if you have an actor reading a story, even if you pick an actor who reads those words in exactly the way that you want that person to, even if you're the reader as the author and you have some acting talent and you want to lend your voice to your own book, that is still going to be participatory. Because think about this. If I say something like, "From the edge of the forest, the thunderous footstep of the giant rumbled over the grave encampment. Boom." If I say something like that, I'm saying the word boom, but even then, what you do with my spoken word boom is up to you. The echo pattern, as silly as it sounds, the echo pattern in the sound itself is going to be determined by your own person. That's the way it is. Audiobooks are a participatory process in the same way that a conversation is a participatory process between two people. Granted, that is two-way and not one-way, but you get what I'm saying. Imagine you're talking with a friend and that friend says, "Wow, he came in there and delivered that news to me, and that just made me really sad." And then someone kicks in the door of that room and goes, "Wah!" Okay, at that point, you're going to be thinking, "I didn't need you to do that. Why are you here?" And that was kind of rude. I think that's what happens when a sound effect suddenly gets put into an audiobook or a music track. Because since everything is so personalized, if you're reading a scary book and you're feeling a sense of fear, and then a music track comes in, 99 times out of 100, that music track is not going to be what you heard in your own head. You're reading something where there's a large crash of a wave, and then there's a sound effect. 99 times out of 100, that sound effect is not going to be what you imagined. So now, in addition to the sound effect that you already heard in your own head, in addition to the feeling that you already felt within your own person, there's this other feeling, there's this other sound effect that is now crashing into your consciousness and is distracting you. It's not immersing you, it's taking away from the experience. Rather than it being additive, it's subtractive. It diminishes your ability to feel and to hear what you need to hear and feel and even picture in that audiobook, because someone else's idea is being pasted over your own and you're having to drown that out now because it is actually diminishing your ability to continue enjoying the story in the way that you were enjoying it before. And that's why I think so many people describe a weird shift in their mind when there's suddenly music or sound effects in an audiobook. And this is something that a lot of people have experienced because I've read through some of the terms and guides and recommendations about uploading audiobooks to Audible. And one of the things that they say is they don't recommend putting music in an audiobook because their readers have written to them and expressed that they don't like it. And I think this is the reason. And just like when you read a book and you watch a movie, what you watch on the screen will never be exactly what you pictured in your mind. It's the same for whatever they put in there besides just the reading of the text. Even if you like what the director did with the film, you have to acknowledge that it's going to be different than what you pictured. But a film is a visual medium, so that's okay. It has to be something. But with a book, the entire enjoyment of it takes place in your mind. So anything that the director of that audiobook puts in there is going to actually hamper that experience rather than helping it. And like I said, I get it. There are those exceptions too, where sometimes there's some music before an audiobook and it really, really helps the experience. I think one of the great examples of this is there's a lovely flute piece that plays before the novel To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, the Audible version. And it's very, very nice. And I think it actually helps. But I'm not kidding you, that is one of the only times that that's ever happened. That's one of the only times I've ever read something on Audible and had the music help. And I have over 200 books in my library, if that tells you anything. And this is something I think has gotten better because it seems like recently, at least half of the new audiobooks I go to read just don't have any music at all. The other half usually have some degree of music, sometimes just at the beginning. I don't really even like that, but it's far less distracting than audio that bleeds into the actual reading. Music that keeps playing for a minute or so into the actual reading, I don't like that. And I especially don't like when the music plays at the end of the audiobook over the final words, because then when I'm supposed to be wrapping it up in my own mind, taking a look back at the thing overall and getting some closure with the book, that's the moment where the audio track starts and rips me out of the experience, and I have to actively drown it out in my own mind to stop it from distracting me. And that's what I don't like the most about that. So again, I understand where it comes from. You want to convey those feelings, you want to convey those emotions to your readers. It comes from a good place. It's trying to help the immersion experience of the reader. But I think audiobooks would be better overall if we just left the sounds and the music and the experiences of emotion to the readers. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.